You've got this, you've got this, and you've got the courage to go out and do it. You're the best. And if this country loses its best, it's got a huge problem, because then it becomes a downward spiral. And I think that the brain drain is the biggest danger this country faces moving forward. There is a brilliant project, I guess most of you know about it, in Chile, called Startup Chile, which in essence is $40,000, move to Santiago and become part of the ecosystem down there. It's got financiers, it's got advisors, it's got branding people, it's got all that kind of stuff to help you build your business. It's great. And I've been working on a project. Der Spiegel called this the antidote to the crisis. By the way, German media has been very kind to us. At the same time, they've been very hard. The most positive stuff that I've come across, certainly in my own case, has been from Der Spiegel, Stern. I mean, the new glamour thing. Glamour Germany, for God's sake. The Süddeutsche Zeitung. They're looking for the good stories. They're looking for them. They call this project the antidote to the crisis. And what it is the following. It's called Yenede, and it's an incubator, but it's more than an incubator, it's like a creative city. It's like a microcosm of the future. And it's located at Helenikon. And I'm happy to tell you, in the old Sarinen terminal, which is the East Terminal, a beautiful building. West Terminal? East Terminal? East. Beautiful building. And the whole idea is inside there to create a real microcosm of the future, the way that things might be. And I'm working very closely with a guy called Polalis, Spiros Polalis, who's the head of Helenikon. And we're going to be signing an agreement quite soon. It's the first time that I'm mentioning this, by the way. And I'm also happy to say that the government has given its blessing, so it looks like this thing's going to happen. And it's really amazing. The logo is inspired by, obviously, by a Google marker, by a lamp, and by growth and olive tree. Now, I want to share with you a couple of things that I've learned. The first thing that I've learned is that brand drives business. Brand is not about marketing. Brand does not drive marketing. And you know, I studied for 4 years to come to the conclusion that brand drives marketing. It's bullshit. Brand drives business. And I've got many, many examples to back up what I'm saying. Number one example is Mr. Steve Jobs. It's all about brand in the beginning. By the way, there's the Sarinen thing. I don't know what it is. It's out of sequence, but anyway, that's the Sarinen building. Brand drives business. It drives growth. It drives sustainability, because brand drives consumer choice and it builds consumer loyalty. And no matter how good you are at what you're doing, if you do not build consumer choice, if you do not build consumer loyalty, you don't have business. Brand drives business. Start with why. Start with why. I mentioned Jobs and that statement, let's make a dent on the universe. That's a why statement. It defines why he's in business. And that's the email that prompted me to send him. The world needs Apple. And I was amazed by the effect that had on me. And then I saw this video by a guy called Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek, I think there's a lesson inside here for all of us. Simon Sinek talks about something called the golden circle. He says most companies on the planet know what they do. Some of them know how they do it. And how you do it is your differentiator, what makes you different to other people. Your USP, to use old style language, right? Why? Very few companies know why they do it, right? And the reason for this, he says, that we start with the easy, the rational, the easy stuff to grasp, right? What do I do? How do I do it? We're never quite sure why we do it. That's the fuzzy part of it, right? He says that we're going to reverse our thinking. You've got to start with why. You're going to start with the fuzzy stuff. And when we talk about why, we're saying, why do you wake up in the morning? What is it that drives you? Why are you doing what you're doing? And the answer is not to make money, that's obvious. It's what your passion is. And I urge each one of you, before you go down and think about that startup or that new idea, is to figure out the why you're doing it. Because that's what's going to make you a great business. Start with why. By the way, one of the best whys I've ever seen in my life is this one for Avis. We try harder. I mean, I get that. And what was Avis doing? They were renting cars, just like Hertz or Budget or everybody else. But they said, we try harder. And they interpreted that into communication and into their business model. Avis needs you, you don't need Avis. Avis never forgets this. And out of that comes the how they do it, and finally, the what they do. This is the way to do it. A great example is dog food, by the way. Dog food is the most generic stuff on the planet. I mean, it's fuel for four-legged beasts. By the way, I love dogs, don't get me wrong. But there's a brand called Pedigree. And Pedigree says, everything we do is for the love of dogs. Everything we do is for the love of dogs. So it's not what they do, it's why they bring it. Okay? So you get dog food manufacturers and you get Pedigree who loves dogs. Well, guess what appeals more to a dog owner? Look at this. Something's going on with the sound. Doesn't matter. Start with why. It's much more powerful than what. Start with why. And that's their slogan, dogs rule. I agree with them, I love dogs. This, to me, is probably the most important one. Humanize your business. Humanize your business. If you're, I'm sure a lot of you in this room are kind of like technically driven. It's not what moves people. It's humanizing that moves people. It's pointing out what it means for me that moves people. It's pointing out what an interesting person you are that moves me. It's pointing out what an interesting idea you've got that moves me. It's your story that moves me. And I'm going to show you a little clip from a very old brand which is talking like it's a startup. Look at this. I'm sorry, the sound is...
Mr. Diner? Mr. Diner, you are working too much.
Maybe, but I made a promise. The promise to build the world's first automobile. And to never stop reinventing it. The promise to capture the hearts of the people with motorsport victories around the world. And fascinate them with shapes they'll never forget. The promise to never stop innovating and to never stop saving lives. And to be a pioneer of excellence in mobility, now and forevermore. A promise of the best or nothing.
I buy that. Somebody says to me, I am doing this because I believe, I promise to make the best or nothing. I buy that. Make promises. Make promises. To yourself and to the world. Make promises. Consistency is almost everything. Companies have got vision statements, mission statements, and value statements, and the board of directors puts them on the wall, and you can't make head or tail out of them, and it's like, okay, well, that's cool, we've got direction, we know what we're doing. Bullshit. This is the moment that everybody's working for, is that moment of victory. And whatever you choose to do, it's the moment when you do it that really counts, okay? That really means something to you. But getting there, you need superb equipment, right? You need to be incredibly focused on what you're doing. But you also need this support. The Formula One race is never won without that. And these guys, 28 of them, can service a car in 7.5 seconds. It takes 2 weeks in Greece. These guys know what they're doing, that's for sure. They can't be on that team. They know how to do it, but most importantly, they know why they're doing it. And you need that support mechanism. And your most important job is to remind your support mechanism constantly about why they're doing it. Then they'll figure out the what and the how, and they'll do it damn well. Let them understand why they're doing it. Coca-Cola, consistency like I've never seen. Get your consumers to work for you. Get your consumers to work for you. And I'm going to explain exactly what. You'll recognize that as a normal distribution curve, the Bell distribution curve, right? For those who don't know it, on the left-hand side, that curve over there is at 0%. It goes up, that's 50% exactly in the middle. It goes down to 100%. It describes many phenomena. It also describes how innovation spreads through society. And it's a very, very important curve for you to be aware of. At the beginning of the curve, you've got the innovators, which is about 2.5% of the market. You've then got the early adopters, about 13.5%. You've then got the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. This is the mass market. This is where you make money. But this is where your business is built. If you don't go up that curve and jump over that little hole over there, you will not reach the mass market. And I'll give you an example. What's that thing called, the Segway? You know, when that came out, I was like, wow, this is the future of transportation. And today, all that I see are guys in Silicon Valley playing polo Segways. And some of my likes in Kolonaki going up the hill with them. And I'm like, jerk. But it could have been if they'd crossed over that little thing over there, okay? You've got to get consumers to work for you, though. And I'll show you what I mean. Take that little product called the iPhone. When the iPhone comes out, any iPhone comes out, right? You get all these guys who are outside the Apple store and they just want it. They don't know what it looks like, because Apple doesn't tell them. They don't know what it does, because Apple doesn't tell them. And they're all just there like, give it to me, right? They can't afford it, they're out in the rain, right? Apple gives them umbrellas, by the way, because Apple understands this very well, right? And they're out in the rain and they went to get their iPhone. And they pull out their $500 and they don't eat for a week. And they walk out with their iPhone, yeah, okay? Forget about those guys. The next group, probably us, although a few of you I suspect might be there. Next group, probably us. It's like, oh, that's got the internet on it, okay. That means that I can get my email on the move, that's cool. You know, I'm not sure it's going to work, but I'll take a risk. I'll pay $500. And if it doesn't work, I'll give it to my kid. And we go for dinner, and we pull out our iPhone, and we show our buddies, and they go, wow, what's that? And we sell to them, right? So it moves into that little thing over there. Now we're on the way. We've now become mass market, okay? And now all of a sudden, people want iPhones because we are selling them. Apple has stopped working, by the way. They're working on the next model, okay? They're working on the next model, really. And we are working for Apple. The next guys are like, oh, all the neighbors have got one, I better get one. You know, I really feel bad. The next group is my grandmother, forget about it. Don't forget that curve. It's the most important concept. Choose who you're going to market to. Choose who you're going to market to. In fact, if I had to summarize what I've just told you up here, number one, brand drives business. Don't think that it doesn't. Don't think that you're going to come up with some cool little thing and then brand it. That's old thinking. brand it, and then develop it. Okay? Brand drives business. Start with why. It's not what you do. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What should be an expression of what you believe inside. Humanize your business. Don't sell people technology they're not interested. Sell them benefit. Make it human. Humanize yourself. Let people understand who you are. Be open. Be naked to the world. Okay? Be consistent. And to be consistent, you need to get your team constantly understanding why. And most important, get your consumers to work for you. Get your consumers to work for you. I'm closing, and then if there's some time, we'll open up for some questions. We're at a defining moment in our history as a country. And I really feel that I'm talking to me, the most valuable group of people in terms of solving and moving forward from this moment. Because to me, it's all about innovation, it's about entrepreneurship, it's about pushing things forward. It's about moving the human race forward. And you know, we should never forget that, you know, this moment looks huge right now. But in fact, history is a series of moments which look huge. And in fact, history becomes that. This is just a little moment. It'll pass. The way in which it passes depends on us. And we've got a long history of creativity, of being innovators to the world. It's our DNA. It's our DNA. And you know, to move forward, it's actually in our hands how we move forward. It's a pivotal point right now. And I want to remind you something, we are Greeks. We have the power to imagine. And now is the time to imagine our future. Greece is on the verge of bankruptcy, but we're not a bankrupt nation, we are Greeks. People with the power to imagine. People with the intelligence to turn imagination into reality. We imagine democracy, we imagine the Acropolis, and it's time to imagine the future. So I leave you with that thought, and I'm open to questions.
Κρατάω από αυτά που είπες ότι είναι πάρα πολύ ωραίο τελικά που είμαστε βλαμμένοι, που είμαστε τρελοί και μπορούμε να το κάνουμε και το κάναμε. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Όμως, υπάρχουν ερωτήσεις για τον Πίτερ καταρχάς. Υπάρχει κάποια ερώτηση? Έχουμε μια ερώτηση εκεί. Η ερώτηση είναι αν έχει σκεφτεί να ασχοληθεί με την πολιτική. Όμως, αν δεν έχουμε άλλη ερώτηση, ήθελα να σημειώσω δύο πράγματα εδώ για τον Πίτερ. Προφανώς κρατάμε πάρα πολλά. Κρατάμε ότι είναι ωραία η τρέλα μας, είναι ωραία που θα περάσουμε εδώ ένα Σαββατοκύριακο και θα κάνουμε αυτό που μας αρέσει και θα διασκεδάσουμε. Αλλά δεν μπόρεσα, Πίτερ, να μην παρατηρήσω ότι χρησιμοποιείς κάποια παιχνίδια για να κάνεις τη δουλειά σου. Άρα σου αρέσουν τα παιχνίδια. Εμείς λοιπόν θα σου χαρίσουμε ένα πραγματικό παιχνίδι. Ένα Xbox Kinect.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, Νάσο. Δηλαδή, αγαπάω τα παιχνίδια, πράγματι. Θέλω να πω κάτι. I'm really thrilled and honored, honestly, to be with you guys here today. I mean, power, man, power to you, really, go for it.